Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. What do you guys think of that statement? Um, so I just played I just went out for a rugby session. That was like my first one. Played some touch rugby, and damn, was it hard. It made me feel pretty unathletic, and like I haven't done anything like really athletic for quite some time with like running and stopping and cutting and whatnot. Especially in cleats. I haven't worn cleats for 15 years or something like that. But as I was driving back, it made me think of this topic. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. And I think, I'm not sure where I first heard this statement, but I heard it recently on a podcast, on the FMS podcast with Gray Cook. And what it means basically is that when somebody's, it's kind of an old saying, right? If somebody's looking muscular and really fit, like a bodybuilder, maybe they've spent a lot of time in the gym, but they don't necessarily have skills to play whatever sport. Um, and it always makes me laugh because as I went out for this rugby ride, I'm meeting a lot of guys for the first time, and everybody's sizing me up and vice versa. And I look pretty fit, right? I am fairly fairly fit, but I guess it starts bringing up the philosophical question of what does fit look like? What does an athlete look like? I think these are funny things that we try to come up with, how with thinking that people looking a certain way equates to ability, and it's just not the case, right? There, I would say, um, despite being dabbling in a lot of sports and stuff growing up and now, I don't consider myself very athletic. Um, and part of that's in comparison to some of my friends with I'll look at them. I mean, I know a lot of people who have like a, man, this sounds like being a dick, but just have like terrible looking physiques, but they're incredible athletes. And I think we put way too much emphasis on aesthetics, especially in fitness, over ability. That's something that I like about working with athletes and more of the strength and conditioning side, because it's really about ability rather than looking a certain way. And I've heard, and you hear it so many times, that oh, they look athletic, they look like they'd be fast, this or that. Which is funny. One guy said, he's like, oh, it looks like you got some wheels on you, which was funny because we ended up, like, very early on, I got the ball and I was like, what do I do? And this dude just like, run. So I just took off towards the corner and got in a nice, got chased down by one guy, which I was pretty smoked after that, to be honest. I don't know that I fully recovered after that, but he's like, yeah, he's like, I was curious to see what you could do, and yeah, I think it's a funny thing. It brought me a lot of memories, and I'm just gonna eat some of this ice cream. This probably isn't great etiquette. Mm. Have some cookie dough. So delicious. Coconut milk ice cream. But yeah, there's a bunch of people that I know who their physiques aren't necessarily great, um, but man, they could play. A lot of these guys out there, some of these guys were big, man. There was some 250, probably a couple guys 270. to 290. I'm guessing these guys were maybe I saw a guy wearing a Tongan shirt, and I'm guessing some of these guys were like Fijian, maybe Tahitian, maybe some of the other islands. But what I thought was so cool is they were so skilled. Ball handling was good with a lot of guys, and some of these one of these big guys, probably the biggest guy out there, he had some really good agility, and he made a couple nice moves and made some people miss a few times, which was nice. And it just brings makes me think about training and what we do for training and physical preparation. Um, and the reminder, like as a coach, as a trainer, it's really important to kind of fully express your abilities. You know, if all you do is train and all you do is prepare, and you never take your body out for a test, you never take it out for a ride, you never play, you're definitely missing something. And immediately after this match, it was a friendly match. We didn't keep score or anything. I started cycling back to energy system development and doing some more aerobic work to improve recovery between sprinting bouts, and then also getting back to getting my sprinting going, and building up my speed, because it is fun as hell to run fast and to outrun people. It is really fun. um, yeah, so I don't know, it's an interesting conversation, I think, because I think ultimately it's important to focus training on ability more than aesthetics, even though they don't have to be separate, I don't think. But I guess what I'm saying is, another thing that I'm saying is, I don't know, this is why like bodybuilding is it's funny to me, or I'd say I think it's silly in a way, because it's just about looking a certain way. And granted, I mean, hey, I'm not taking bodybuilding is actually what got me into fitness in the first place, as it did a lot of people that I know. But it's just about like looking a certain way. And I'm not taking anything away with from bodybuilders, because I know some bodybuilders who are also great athletes, and they can do a lot of things with their body. So again, it's not mutually exclusive, but it's a funny thing, the bodybuilding, I think, to literally just kind of go for an aesthetic, because I don't know, past the aesthetic, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do anything. And so I think, focusing training on being being able being able to do things has to be paramount. And that's where you get into concepts like task oriented training, and that can just be a reframing of exercises you may already do, right? I think a strength training can be very task oriented training, where essentially all you're doing is you're overcoming inertia, and you're moving a load in a certain way. Um, that's some good ice cream. Um, but yeah, kind of rambling here, but and that's something that I love about all the people that I'm around, I get to spend a lot of time around. Same thing with like surfers. I see a lot of surfers, a lot of aunties and uncles. Again, with what I'm saying, coming from my background, this is not meant to be a shallow, judgmental comment because I'm like, man, they have terrible looking bodies, but they surf so good, and I'm like, I'll be watching it and I'll be like, man, I would trade with them. I'd be a little fatter and have like a body that doesn't necessarily look so good with their ability, with their skill level. Um, and again, I'm not saying it's definitely not mutually exclusive. Um, but I think, yeah, that's one thing that got me into training in the first place. I think is having so many friends were athletic growing up, and maybe more so than me, and figuring out how to get better. And I guess at some point I thought that was through strength and conditioning and work in the weight room and that sort of thing, which that's part of it. That is part of it, but as I get older, I'm trying to make that the smallest part possible and make sure that it's complementary and that skill is paramount. And this kind of gets into the philosophy of the functional movement screen and functional movement systems, and in terms of having a pyramid, and at the base of the pyramid we have, general human movement. Then on the next layer you have general athletic abilities, expressions of strength and power and speed, etc. And then at the top you have skill. So the theory is that the better your base is, the better you have these different attributes, these physical literacies, the easier you're going to be able to develop skill, which I think is true. Um, but I think more and more it's really, really important to focus on skills from the onset, and then figuring out where you need to fill in the gaps with training. Because something that I say to people all the time is, I've been in the business of we're preparing to do, and that's rubbed off on me in a lot of ways, where it's like I'll think of a thing, and maybe instead of just doing it, I'll think of a way of how do I prepare for this thing. And that can be, I think that's good. It's a good line of thinking, but it can be detrimental, and it's kept me from just doing things and trying things. So that's been a big shift that I've been working on for the last couple of years of, trying to get a minimum level of physical competency or prerequisites or whatever you call it, of just ability for the body to try things. And I think the most important thing is to try things. Um, yeah, this rant's gone all over the place, but I just thought of something that is a regret that I have from from high school. In high school, I played football, and I only played my junior and senior year. The reason I didn't play sophomore is because I got in trouble going to a party, which is maybe a story for another time. It's a pretty good story actually, and it says a lot about the character of Coach Davis, who is a really great person, who was my high school football coach. But anyway, he said when we were playing football, I remember one time he was talking, and he was like, guys, he's like, for you guys thinking of going to college and, playing at the next level, he said coaches want athletes. He said they don't want specialists. He's like, they want guys, because once you get to college, they can mold you into something. But he always was saying, he's like, I love soccer players when they come out and play. He's like, because they have great footwork and different things that they just get from playing soccer. And so he was always encouraging us to go out for different sports. Of course I didn't. I went the route of trying to train in the weight room and that nature. So that is a big regret that I have. And it's something that I've seen a lot in my career. I used to work with a lot of lacrosse athletes, and many of them would play year round. They played maybe on the school team and a travel team, and and I think at a certain point it makes sense. But when I have kids and when I advise people, I say delay specializing as long as possible, which is funny because that almost seems counter to what I was saying earlier about focusing on skills. But I think the idea is to acquire as many skills from as many different sports as you can and develop more play in all sports. So, because it's like Davis used to say, he's like the best athletes always play multiple sports, and that's true. It's like any of the kids that I trained over the years, the best athletes always they played more. They played the most. They played a bunch of different sports, and they were great at a wide variety of things. And I think that helps with your IQ of games and challenges. And I can think of I can think of a bunch of my friends who were good athletes, and I look back and I'm like, man, they had a good handle. They had a good IQ on the game and what the objective was, and yeah. So um, I guess there's a different couple different nuggets in here that you can take from, but I'd be curious, to hear what you think about training. I still think training is very valuable, maybe, and the best way to get better at anything is to do the activity, arguably. But you could ask the question as, are there a few things, are there certain things that will allow you to maybe have longevity in that practice? Like surfing is a big one for me right now. I like to surf. If I don't take care of my body well, and maybe my back hurts or different things don't feel so good, then I don't surf as much. So um, I guess what I'm saying is, if you just want to do the activity, that's good. But when you think about longevity and being able to practice a skill many, many, many times, that's where some sort of conditioning and strength work probably comes in.